Welcome to Church NXT. We're all about church leadership. We're all about growth. We're all about health. We're all about what the Holy Spirit is doing in the church. And whilst this is kind of like the practical, educational side of me, I love leaning into this stuff. I love learning and I love growing. And really, we're on this journey together. Today, we have the privilege of interviewing and having a conversation with Paul Cox. Now, Paul is the founder of thechurchco.com. He's got an amazing business that serves thousands of churches across literally around the world, building websites, got a wonderful platform, and it's a wonderful service. I'm not getting paid for this. This isn't advertising. This is just genuine interest. We have a great conversation. And so you're going to really enjoy it. It's amazing. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Say hi to us and reach out to us. But let's go to Paul right now. Well, welcome everybody. So glad to have you here today. In today's conversation, I'm talking to Paul Cox. It's going to be an amazing time as we do a bit of a dive into church and technology, that whole kind of online space and who the church is meant to be, how we interact, and some best practices too. For those of you that don't know, Paul leads a company called thechurchco.com and specializes in like website. I'll let him explain it. He'll do a far better job than I do. But Paul, it's so good to have you here. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt. It's always good. Even though I have this American accent, I actually do live here in Australia. So it's always nice to talk church tech with a fellow Australian, since you guys have adopted me.
Fellow Aussie. I love that. I know when you jumped on the line, when we were just talking before, I was like, you've got an American accent, but you're in Sydney, so it's all good. And I won't hold it against you that you're in Sydney. It's all good. There's a bit of a rivalry there going on.
That's all right.
But we've got people listening from all over the world, and so it's really good to have you on, Paul. I think this conversation is going to be super helpful because I just think that space and technology and churches and social media and websites and all of that has just come leaps and bounds in the last, kind of 10 years. It seems like we're taking some really, really huge steps at the moment in that space. But just by way of introduction, would you be able to just kind of take us into, we'd love to hear about your journey and how the Church Co came about and what it's up to and what you guys do as a company.
For sure. So the Church Co is, like you said, it's a website platform, website and mobile app platform. That's what we focus on. And we also have, kind of tons of features that just really help churches manage their digital presence. So what we do, because, every church has to have a website, right? What we do that's a little bit different to everyone else is we actually build websites for free for anyone that signs up with us, so that we can help you get like the best possible website that you can get, and then you can kind of take it over and manage it yourself. That's how people have been building websites forever. And then, 5-10 years ago, people started being like, no, I should build a website myself. And that's fine. You can totally do that on our platform as well. But we just find, because we're a whole team of people that have worked at churches all over the world, like we know a lot about what people are looking for when they come to websites. And so what we can really do is come in really quickly, build you a really modern and nice website, and then kind of show you how to maintain those things. And websites are not meant to be just like a poster of what is happening in your church. It's meant to be like way more than that. So we've built like really specific tools that help churches engage with their community, like a full church online system, an online giving system, a small groups for connecting, an events system, digital prayer, like all of these things that just like really help you engage with the people that are either in your online service or looking to attend a church for the first time. I've been around for little over 5 years now, and we've built thousands of churches' websites, and we've kind of it's really cool because we can see data across website visits from all over the world. That's awesome. And so I get really nerdy, but it's really fascinating to kind of see how people are finding churches online, what they're doing when they come to the websites, and we just kind of love that we get to help play a part in like all of these different churches' stories.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And just for clarification, so that people know, I pastor a church, and we don't actually use the church code. This is a really kind of just clear, transparent conversation. And I found Paul's website on just through searching and Googling and all the rest of it. I love the integration, though, Paul, of what your services provide, in the sense that it's like a one-stop shop in a way that provides a whole, like just the full scope of what you need to do online. Is that something that's just developed over time? Have you just kind of been adding those modules, if you like, onto the business, or was it kind of the architecture from the start when you started the church code?
It's definitely grown over time. When it first started, I used to hear these stories of people being like, "Oh, we paid a friend or a youth in the church, and they built us a website on Wix, and it was $5,000. But then they went to college, and now like we don't know how to do anything." And I was like, there has got to be a better way. So, and it's like first iteration, it was really simple. It was just like very basic pages with a blog, events, and a way for you to upload your sermons. But as things progressed, like the world has changed drastically since when that was, which was 2015. So, we started rolling out things like, well, there should be a system for handling prayer requests. Like someone should be able to come and anonymously submit a prayer request, and your congregation should kind of know to check this page and pray for people, and then kind of like notify them and, click the I prayed and let them know. And then it was like, well, we should really have like sermons that are grouped by the series that are on, and it should kind of like look and function like Netflix, because that's what people are used to browsing. Like they're used to opening, their Netflix app, but they're used to like picking a series and then watching an episode. So like if we just mimic that type of behavior with your sermons, like they'll already know how to use it. And then, fast forward to February, March 2020. At least I was in the U.S. at that time. We went into like the 3-week lockdown, and obviously like you guys went to a lockdown a bit later than we did in the U.S. Yeah. But at that point, it was like, okay, well, churches are faced for the first time with, if we're going to have service on Sunday, we have to do it online. So what are we going to do? So when that order came out, we just started coding, and within 8 hours we had the first iteration of our online church platform built into the website, and we made it available to everyone that had an account with us. And so you can kind of connect your live stream, do live chat with people, have those prayer requests, salvation forms, online giving, and we just kept like adding on as people would say, like, yeah, it'd be really nice if we could manage our small groups. And it's like, okay, well, like, can we like see where people are to try to geolocate this map and like present the small groups that are near them? And we just kept like iterating, and basically that's kind of what we've got to today. And we're continuing that whole process moving forward. People are always submitting good ideas to us, and we're like, can we make this work? And how can we use this to reach more people, which is the ultimate goal of why your website exists.
Yeah, I love that. One of the thoughts that came to mind, because we've recently pioneered a church in 2020, we attempted to, we have pioneered a church, wonderful community, and it's amazing, right at the start of lockdown. But as you were talking about the website thing, and maybe this would just help pastors and church leaders on the journey, is the truth. You mentioned like, the kid that built the website in Wix sort of thing, or some youth group or someone. And the truth is these days, the tools, YouTube tutorials, all those sorts of things, anyone can probably build a website, so to speak.
Definitely.
But I think the question that I'd put out to pastors and leaders is should you be? Especially when, your solution is completely affordable in my mind compared to what if you were to go to a web company to get a website built, or the time that you're going, a pastor, myself, would put into building a website. Just doesn't make any sense when you look at the solutions that are out there, like the church code. And so I would just, quick side note, just encourage any pastor or leader to really look at the time that they're putting into these sorts of things, and the energy and the product that they're going to get out at the end in such an important space. Go to someone that knows what they're doing.
It's interesting, right? Like you said, should you? Like, I could get up and lead worship on Sunday, but I promise you don't want to listen to that. It's just not my strength. Right. So, and sometimes I feel like, yeah, great, you have a website, but it's kind of the equivalent of me trying to lead worship. Like, God still thinks it's worship and he still loves your website as well. But there is a difference between, I think, someone that is, is gifted in singing and gifted in leading worship. And like for us, like it's nerdy, but that's our gifting. Like we realize like that's what's in our hand. We write code and we design, and we want to make sure that we're using those to reach more people. And that's why we also made it for free for churches. Like as long as you like come on with us and you come onto our platform, like we include a team that will like design and review your website for you. And that's just because we know a lot because we've done it so many times. Like I think we've built over 4,000 websites now. So we've worked with all denominations, like all different countries, and we just kind of have this data that says like, oh, if you present yourself this way, it actually helps someone, like maybe they're searching around Easter time, like this is what they're looking for, and this will actually get them to get that first contact with your church.
Yeah, I love that. I think especially in the website space, my observation is people build websites, but they just don't have the knowledge or the objectiveness to kind of think through who's viewing my website, what is the website for? Like, is it for our church? Is it the window front for those that don't know Christ, et cetera, et cetera. And so they're hard things to answer at the same time as trying to build a website yourself. And so strongly encourage people to just go to someone that knows what they're doing. Shameless plug for the church co. Absolutely.
We'd love to help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so what would you say out of your observation from working with really, really large churches, some of the biggest churches in the world, right through to the pioneering church plant, but what are some challenges that you've seen churches have regarding technology, and what are some standout things that you just see we don't do that too well?
Yeah, I think a lot of time we look at ourselves as the church, and we think we're quite different to other businesses that need websites. And we are, because we're getting real nerdy here, but our conversion metrics are different, right? Like we're not trying to make a sale as a church. Yeah. But we still have a conversion, and it might actually be like a spiritual conversion, like if we're really like talking about like someone finding Christ, or like for, maybe a church, the conversion might be, well, I want them to watch a service online. And then their next step conversion is, I want them to enter our church, like come in person. And so like, I think we have to look at like, what are our goals? And then how are we processing people through this journey to get to the goal? Because if your homepage is like, come to this church, or like eternal damnation, unfortunately, it's not a great way to start a conversation, right? So we need to think about like our approach to how we're interacting with people differently. And almost always, like the people we have surveyed, it's over 70%. They are visiting a website before they come through your front door, or if they're watching, obviously they're doing that on the website. But we have to think of our website as not an afterthought, but like this is actually like the first handshake we have with a potential new member of our church. And so I think when you reframe your website that way, it really kind of like focuses you into how you should be communicating about your church and about Jesus. Because a lot of times people that land up on these websites actually don't know why we would go to church in the first place. So I know a lot of churches all over the world talk about next steps, but I like to focus also on first steps. Like, you probably go to a church if you know why you go to church. And there's not a lot of church websites that do a great job of explaining like why do we exist, and not just like to reach the people in the Melbourne area. Like that, yes, great mission statement, but like how does it apply to the person that has found themselves randomly on a Thursday night on your website? And I think if you start to think about the individuals, it really helps you like craft this website, which becomes a sermon, which helps you meet people. Yeah. It's
kind of that first. It's the step before the next steps of communication, isn't it? It's like arguably it's probably the first place people are gonna, outside of a human interaction of like, hey, do you want to come here on Sunday, or whatever the case might be. But it's the first real step of communication to people.
It is.
And absolutely. So what would you, if like a hypothetical here for you, I'm about to plant a church, or I'm pioneering a church, or I've got a church of 200 to 300 people, whatever the case might be, and I know I need to really engage in this kind of online space. And I'm thinking about website, I'm thinking about from website right through to kind of social media and interaction. Where do I start? Like, what do I need to make as a priority to have that place of communication, as we were just saying, just kind of humming and on point? Where would you suggest that I would start in that case scenario?
Well, so if you're planning a church and you're pre-launch, right, your biggest thing is you don't want to launch alone. You want to launch with hopefully a group of like core team members, like maybe a few families, so that when you actually kick off regular services, you've got more than just yourself up on a stage, also singing, also doing everything, also taking the offering. Like so your goal for the website in that pre-launch phase is to build that team. So maybe your call to action for pre-launch is not plan a visit, it's join our launch team, or come to an interest night, or book a dinner with me. Like, I'll take you to dinner. Like, you have to understand your key goal for that season that you're in. But while that's happening, because a lot of churches that are planting will be like, okay, we're going to launch our website once we start services. That is a massive mistake, because SEO is the biggest, like SEO stands for search engine optimization. So searching Google and Google Maps is the leading way that people that don't attend your church find your church. And we pull stats every Easter that show this, that it is like way more effective than social media strategy. It's more effective than sending emails. Like, when people that don't attend your church are looking for a church to attend, they do so by Googling. And so if you know that you're planting a church in 2 years, I would blog once a week on a website, even if it's not linked at the top, about the journey, because you're going to be feeding this engine, right? Google is an engine, and the more content you feed it, the higher it's going to serve your website up as a result when people are asking questions. So if you're pre-launch and you're about to plant a church, I would have a homepage that talks about your vision, why you are planting this church. And I would have the call to action be join our launch team, or like I said earlier, like, let's grab a coffee, like whatever is like culturally acceptable in your region. But while you're doing that, have a blog. Like, so many churches just don't blog, and it's like the easiest thing you can do to just like rank your church on Google, which is where new people are searching. So be like, okay, like month one, where we know we're planting a church in 2 years, like this is what I'm praying for. And like, write your prayer into the blog post, because like later you never know. Someone could be like, or like you could write a post being like, man, I'm really feeling like anxious about starting this church. And we're going to go with Melbourne because, like you said, better than Sydney. I did, whatever. But like, you could write like, I'm like really anxious about planning this church, but like, this is what God showed me and this is how I'm dealing with it. And you never know, like later someone might be like, I'm really anxious. What does God say about this? And Google, because they're in Melbourne searching for this thing, might serve your website up as the answer to that question. So like, the biggest thing you could do, start your website immediately from like pre-day one. And then like, when it's time to actually start regular services, that's when you can kind of like do a makeover on the homepage, really go into like, what do you do with your kids, all the normal like church stuff. But that's what I would focus on. It's just feeding the machine content.
I love that. Would you recommend like SEO, search engine optimization, as you mentioned before, which is kind of well explained in the sense of feeding Google? The more you put in, the higher you're going to climb in the ranks. And would you suggest that can you do that yourself? How do you do that yourself, or do you pay someone to do that for you?
Yeah, you definitely can. I mean, there's a lot of default things that any good website platform will have baked in. The biggest thing that contributes to your ranking is that the content you're producing is relevant to what the person is searching. So we've all experienced a Word document at some point in our life, right? And if I hit Command F, I'm on a Mac, Control F on a PC, and I search churches in Melbourne, if those words aren't exactly in the Word document, you will find no results. And that's how your website works. with like a little bit more sophistication, right? So if you're a church in Melbourne and you want to be found when people are searching for churches in Melbourne, you should write the words churches in Melbourne and things. So like when you're writing that blog post we just talked about, you could be like, we're a new church, we're going to be a new church in Melbourne. And like we're focusing on this, this, and this, right? But every time you're doing that, you're saying, okay, the content that this website is producing is relevant to churches and it's relevant to the city of Melbourne. Okay. And so you can do that without hiring someone else. Like there's way more advanced features that we can get into about like structuring data and keywords and all of these things, and we provide those as a service as well. Okay. But I would say like the biggest thing before you go hire like $1,000 a month agency is just write content with the keywords that you want to rank for. Yeah.
No, that's really cool. And so would the same thing apply, would you say, to a more established church of 300 to 500 people or above? Are you encouraging them, I'm hearing you, without putting words in your mouth, to start a blog, get your staff or get your team, put them on a roster, write a blog post a week, here's what I want you to be writing about, et cetera, et cetera. Am I picking up the right thing there?
Yeah, totally. Like, you see a lot of like, here's our latest sermon. Yeah. And they put in a YouTube link, right? That's great for like, if you're searching in YouTube. But what you could do is like get that video transcribed. Yeah. And put the YouTube link there and then like a text transcription, right? And maybe no one ever reads that, but one really important person is going to read that, and that's Google. And then so when people are searching for like, let's use the anxiety example again. Like if you did a whole sermon on that, you've just presented Google with like a whole document of content. So I would get on a regular cadence, just doing like a quick Sunday recap, or like, like youth was on, here's what happened, like the Friday night update, and kind of like go from there. Like I think it's one thing that I don't see a lot of churches doing, but the churches that are doing it are crushing it, and it's so worth it. Yeah. I'm
writing that down in my notes for my team this week. That's awesome. There you go. Yeah. No, really good, really good. What would you, like I know this from my own personal tension from working in a large church that was quite well resourced, had a IT department, had in-house designers, had, the whole CEO, CFO, all that whole vibe, to being in this raw, organic, really community kind of small, undermanned, if you like, is probably the reality of a church startup, where you're starting off in someone's lounge room and you're looking around going, where is the IT ninja? I suppose the ultimate question, and this probably just leads to a shameless plug, which is more than welcomed, but what sort of cost am I looking at as a pastor of a church in that IT space? What should I be expecting to be paying to get that space right in the context of not having the human resource within my own church community?
Yeah, I would say I don't think you need to hire someone for this, like as like a full-time engagement, right? There's so many services out there. And like depending on where you're listening to, a lot of services free as well. Like you don't need an IT team to set you up email anymore. Yep. You can go with Google Workspace, which is free for nonprofits, at least in the US. Yep. And that solves all of your email problems and all of your file storage problems. And then for like, say a website, like there's tons of services, including our own, like our basic package, which includes like the blogging, the events, the sermons, that's $29 a month. And that includes us building the website for free. Like we have, we have higher plans. There's a $50 a month plan, which has integrations to like other systems and an online giving system and all of that. And then we have like our highest plan, which is called the Ultimate Plan. And that's like a unlimited web design system. So that's like $199 a month. And basically you never have to do anything. So that includes your website. It includes a mobile app. It includes a form that you can be like, Easter is coming up, build us a landing page, here's the info. And our team of web designers, who all happen to be from working in church backgrounds, can just log in and make you that page. You review it and you go, yes. And so you might be saying like $199 is a lot. It's not in the sense of like if you compare it with a full-time staff person.
Yeah.
And you're also getting like very much experts in the field. And then you can also do that for things like graphic design. Like you can go on to one of the unlimited church graphic design packages, which are usually like $500 a month. And again, like a bit more expensive, but when you start to think of it as like, well, if I hire a graphic designer minimum, it's going to be $40K a year, or in Australia even more because the wage differences. Like these types of unlimited services that are very specialized in working with churches become quite an appealing offer, as well as like they never leave, right? So we don't graduate and move on to uni. We're still here, like through the whole length of your church. You know, like we grow with you as you grow, and I think that all up, I think you can be under $1,000 in spend every month, and you can have like your whole website done, a graphic design team, a video person that's cutting up your videos into social media clips for you to post. Like there's so many things that can be done on what is like $1,000 a month is definitely a lot, but like comparatively to the way it used to be, like the same level of services was costing you nearly $100,000 a year. So like, and they're very quick turnarounds. So I think there's a way to do things on a budget that is very high quality and is still very affordable.
I really love this conversation because I think the church world is moving. The world has absolutely moved. Like I saw a business model the other day that someone that I came across that was like a graphic designer, and he's basically charging about $5,000 a month. For unlimited graphic services.
I know who you're talking about.
And that was like in a corporate space, and so let's call that 60, 70 grand a year US. I think that was about the Aussie dollar mark, but there's a better, smarter, and more efficient way for people to do things that we really need to stay on the forefront of that from a whole lot of things, because in the church, which is my area of expertise, because I just feel like the church world's changing, and I feel like even what church pioneering and planting and that whole space is going to look like moving forward is going to be different moving forward as the Western church face some challenges, in different spaces. I think people are really grappling with what does church look like? What does this mean? And we even saw through COVID, just people want to orientate their lives more around just that sense of community and engagement there rather than attendance on a Sunday. And of course it's both and, like we advocate for it all, but I love the conversation because I think we as church leaders need to be going, well, what's the most efficient, what's the best way of stewarding the resources we have? And also, let's not kill people by trying to get something out of them that's just not in them. And around that whole, that's why I'm a big advocate for technology and for, we employ, when we went into lockdown and we pivoted to that video space and trying to go online, we hired a video editor in the Philippines. He's a lovely guy. Shout out to Mike. And he's been a part of our team now. We pay him a good salary. He's going to be listening to this, so he can email me otherwise. But he's a part of our church family really now, but he lives in another country, and he does just an incredible job at what he does, editing our videos, doing some of our graphics, all those sorts of things. But the cost effectiveness there for us being a church plant is just through the roof. And not just that, that's not the main reason. The main reason is we don't have the people inside of our small community to be able to do that. And so I love the idea of outsourcing those things. That was going to be one of my next question. Do you do it in-house or do you outsource? And I think the answer is probably both and, but especially in that infancy stage, I think what you can outsource, the world is much more friendly these days than it was 10 years ago to have a virtual team, if you like. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like we were remote well before COVID. We have people in Canada, in Kentucky, in the US, like in New York, we have people in New Zealand, we have people here in Australia. Like there's people all over, right? it's just, this is how it works now. And I think there's definitely ways. It also lets you, like you said, it lets you be a very good steward of the resources you do have. Like, do you want to spend $40,000 to $50,000 a year on a full-time graphic designer, or do you want to hire a service that specializes in church graphic design that all up costs $6,000 a year, and that lets you use your other resource to make a real impact in your community? Like, it really opens up the doors for you to kind of focus on what we were called to do, which is to help people. And so, like, that's always been kind of our goal, is like, we just want people to have better church websites, and we actually priced it as low as we possibly could, so there would be no more excuses for like reasons to not do it. And then we were like, oh, okay, well, we'll do it. We'll actually even build it for free as well. Like, because it's just about fulfilling the goal. It's like, you know, like, I think this is how we have to think about things going forward. Like, it lets pastors pastor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of, like, you always hear of people burning out. They're wearing like 100 hats. You know, they're, like I said, they're preaching, they're doing the offering, they're doing the video editing, they're in Canva doing designs, they're building a website on Squarespace. Like, you're exhausted. Like, it's worth it. It's worth it to kind of like let people come up next to you and support like what you're doing. I think it's a really smart approach to how the church will look going forward, which, like, I really like. I think where the church can go. I think it's a different looking church, and it's going to be really cool. And you've got teams of people that support pastors doing local missions. I think it's really great.
No, it's amazing. And look, to be perfectly honest with you, I was reaching for my phone there rudely before, trying to open my calculator on my iPhone, and just doing like $199 a month US dollars, I'm assuming, is works out to be about $2,400 thereabouts a year.
Yeah, that's right.
Go and get 3 quotes on getting a website done, and try to get it done, inclusive of all the things that the church co, and of course there's other companies out there as well, for that price. And to be honest with you, like, the kid up the road that knows how to open WordPress is probably going to quote you more than that. It's true. It's going to be a lot more hassle. So it's extremely affordable. And I think, you know, one of the things that's just absolutely floating my boat in this conversation is just around, like, staying in your lane as a church leader. You know, realistically, just inviting and giving pastors permission to kind of stay in their lane and their space, especially if their human resources are limited, which, let's be honest, in most churches, big or large, we have limitations in that space. And so I really love that conversation, because I think there are just so many really wonderful tools out there. On that note, one of the things that I did want to kind of dive into and speak to you about, as like a futurist, as someone that's really invested in thought and also in your life in this space of online and IT, et cetera, in helping and equipping the church. But one of my observations over the last couple of years over the last couple of months, is that just this whole space is taking some really, really significant steps at the moment, almost like giant leaps at the moment. And especially in that space of AI, you know, you've got ChatGPT, you've got Midjourney, you've got, I mean, they're just a few that I'm aware of, and I know that there are new things and different applications coming out all the time. How do you see that space of technology being a benefit to the church?
Oh, I mean, yeah, massive benefits, right? Like, regardless of if you think it's a good thing or if you think it's a bad thing, I think the people that we minister to, like our congregants, are going to have an experience with it. And so we need to know about it so that we can communicate about it, right? It's the same as if you're preaching and you're going into a certain area, you learn about the culture before you preach your message, right? And like, that's how it is with, I think, AI as well. And the benefits are just insane. You now have this assistant that lets you 10x your output. Like, it can listen to your sermon, write a transcript of it, and then create a 5-day devotional based on the sermon topics. Yeah. And of course, you'll read over it and make sure it's okay before you send it out to your members. But these are things that before you would have had to pay large amounts of money to people to get done, or you'd have to have another volunteer, or you'd have to like burden yourself in addition to all the tasks you're doing to do these things, right? And so now, like, again, it comes back to, like, you're a pastor, you should pastor. Like, that's what you're called to do. So now you have this assistant that is going to let you do that by taking these other things off your plate. And I think that's, like, just an amazing thing. Like, there's so many applications, I think, that are just going to revolutionize the way we do church and how we reach out to new people. Like, another example is like we're kind of using it at the Church Co. The first pass when you ask a question to our support, it goes to an AI bot that it knows everything about our website. It knows everything about our help docs. And so if you're like, I don't know how to upload a sermon to my website, it's going to give you the first answer. Yeah. And if you're like, well, I still don't know, you just hit talk to a human, and then you get connected to us, and you talk right away. But what that allows us to do is it gets you your first response in seconds, instead of like maybe our team's caught up talking to 3 other people. Like, now you're getting an instant answer. So you can see the application immediately to someone like that maybe is like getting used to chatting with technology, and they come to your church website and they're like, I don't want to read all of this. Let me just ask the question. And then it's like, oh, okay, yes. So like, we meet on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and, you drop off your kids next to the, flower pot that's out front, because this is all things that it knows because you've told it. And like, I think as long as, like, as much as other people are getting used to these things, we have to also come in and say, like, this is how we're going to use this thing as a tool to help reach more people, because that's what we're called to do, right? So I think leveraging AI is going to be massive. It's moving so fast, and I think we're just going to see all these new applications coming so quickly. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really daunting space for a lot of people, but I think it's equally a super exciting space that we as the church, Big C, just need to be on top of, because it's pertaining to communication, right? And, excuse me, there are just so many... as you mentioned, there are just so many applications. Like, there's almost AI or something like that for every part of work that we do now. And so, it's really, really, really an exciting space for us to start venturing out into. And I think you mentioned this before. I'm not sure in this part of the conversation or not, but offline, around like, you used the word assistant before, which I really liked, because one of the things you mentioned offline before was that, like, AI will probably never replace human connection as far as we can see it right now. Like, there's that whole Ready Player One vibe, which we might delve into a little bit in a moment. But the truth is we're created for interactivity from human to human. And so there's always going to be a need for that. But I love what you said around... it actually just frees a pastor up to be a pastor. It frees a church leader or whoever to be that front-facing person and not have to worry about, how am I getting that notes? Where's that blog post coming from? How do I get someone else to do this for us in that space? A few years ago, I was thinking, like, could the internet, Google comes along, and where the internet was, I was like, it's pretty amazing. Like, I grew up as a kid without the internet. Showing my age there. Remember the whole dial-up modem type of situation. Oh yeah. But like, what's crazy is like, we're just taking leaps and bounds right now in this space, and even the just a few weeks ago, Apple have released their Apple Vision Pro. Their like kind of headset that you wear, and it looks absolutely incredible. It's got a good price tag on it, but it looks incredible. I did want to ask what your thought was in light of all that around just kind of that virtual church space. Do you feel that as that technology gets better, that there is going to be a greater demand for that experience or engagement with in a Sunday service? Can you see it happening in small groups, all those sorts of things?
Yeah, I mean, yes. So I was like not an early adopter, but I had like a Facebook Oculus, right? So I didn't use it a ton, but one of the ways I used it that I enjoyed was co-working with our team. So I could create a virtual office, and it has like the spatial audio. So if you set up like someone on Zoom over here,
love that,
you hear them over here, right? And it definitely felt better than a Zoom meeting. And I know that there's some people that love that experience. And I think the Great Commission, right, was like, go preach the gospel to people. It didn't say, go make people come to you so that you can preach the gospel.
Yeah.
So if there is an opportunity for you to go preach the gospel in a space where people are hanging out, why would we run away from that?
Yeah.
Like, we love in-person meetings, but there might be someone, like, this connects people that had no means of connection. Like, if you're, depending on the size of your church, right, you might not ever be able to interact with someone that's more than 100 kilometers, 70 miles, that conversion's not right, but away from you. But these tools let you do that.
Yeah, wow.
They let you go and chat to people that you'd never be able to chat to. And I think that's our calling, right? Like the outworking of it looks different, but I think we should be early adopters to these things. They give us opportunities that we don't currently have, or we haven't had in previous years to reach more people. And I think that's fascinating. I hope that we lean into these spaces. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's always those that run ahead, right, and do it. Like I was listening to like a commentator, if you like, someone that was talking about some of these spaces, and he was just basically saying that, like, if they started their church or their ministry or whatever, and he was talking about different kind of church leaders of larger churches, that because of where technology's at today, actually they might just start something online. Because arguably that's where the people are. And I suppose it depends on your vision and your mission, and some people want to be like literally breaking bread with people on a regular basis, and some people are happy to do this and something more digital. So
can I comment on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the important part of what you just said is some people, and that some people not referring to the pastors.
Yeah.
Referring to the other people.
Yeah.
Some people want to be in person. Some people want to be online. Some people want to be in person once every 6 weeks and online the other weeks.
Yeah.
We shouldn't force people into our way of doing it.
Yeah, perfect.
We should facilitate being there when they want us to be there.
Yeah.
But like, I remember at the beginning of lockdowns, people would live stream at 9 a.m. on Sunday morning, and that was it.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I was like, imagine me opening Netflix and then being like, oh, you can't watch this until 9 a.m. on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like a massive disconnect to me.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to kind of take a step back from what we've always known and what we've always done and say, what does the end user, I'm talking in like web design and UX terms now, but what does like the end member of your congregation want, and are you there for them when they want you to be?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, have your 9 a.m. live together service, but
absolutely. Yeah.
Make it on demand. I was just going to say,
and what does it matter how many people you have on the one Zoom call? Like surely it's less about that and more about just, well, how many people are you just actually engaging with and helping if that's the goal. If
it's Wednesday night and it's 3 a.m, and I'm feeling I need a spiritual encounter and I land on your website, I hope that I can watch a recent sermon.
Yeah.
Like that's my hope, right? I hope that it doesn't say come back or come in person at 9, because that's a missed opportunity. Yeah. I think that's a missed opportunity for us to be there for people. And so those are my thoughts on it. Yeah.
No, I really love that. Do you have any other kind of little IT things? I've mentioned ChatGPT and Midjourney Midjourney's like a graphic design sort of, well, AI art realistically. But do you have any like little things that you're like, hey, go check this out, go check that out? Are there any other ones that come to mind?
There's a couple cool tools out there. Obviously, like the Church Co for websites. Capture Collab is another product we have, which is like a photo storage and distribution system for teams. Obviously, we take a ton of photos as churches. Yeah. It's really annoying to get emailed every day. What's the latest link? What's the latest link? There's a better solution for that. So that's Capture Collab. Another one that's really cool is sermonshots.com.
Okay.
Is one of the people we kind of work with, or like I think is a really cool little app. It lets you like upload your latest sermon, and then it gives you like a transcript of it.
Oh wow!
and then you can edit it into clips just based on searching the transcript. So if you know your pastor made a really good point about breaking bread together, you can like search the words breaking bread, it'll pull up that part of the sermon, and then you just remove all the other parts, and it just instantly turns that into like a little like Instagram story or Instagram reel. So that one's really cool. And there's tons of others. There's so many online like service-based businesses for graphic design. There's there's tons, but the Sermon Thoughts one I think is just like a really cool app. If you can't outsource and you don't want to go all in, like it's a cool way of being like, I do want to repurpose my sermons for social, and I'm not a video editor, so this is great.
Yeah. Nah, perfect. Hey, Paul, thanks so much for your time. I want to just ask you a few quick rapid fire questions so we can get to know you a little bit better, and then I'll just invite you to let us know how we can connect with you and where people can find you and more about the Church Code. But here are a few quick questions. What's the best book you've read outside the Bible? You can't answer that. But what's the best book you've read in the last 12 months and why?
I'm real into business books, so I don't know if it's applicable.
Go ahead.
But Good to Great by Jim Collins is by far one of my all-time favorite books. Atomic Habits by James Clear as well. These are all very action-based books, right? They give you lots of data and lots of study, and you can see how that applies to your life. Those are two books that I will read again for sure.
I've read both of those books.
Those are my two favorites.
They're brilliant. I'm reading this book at the moment. Have you read it?
I haven't. Is it good?
Oh, it's off tap, man. It's so good. Trusted and Inspired by Stephen Covey. Get it? It's good.
All right, I'll check it out.
If you could go back in time and have a coffee with someone, who would it be and why?
Steve Jobs.
Nice.
Just because he thought about things so differently. No pun on think differently, but yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Something people might not know about you.
I play drums.
Cool.
I used to. I kind of still do. Every once in a while. At least on the table and on the dashboard of the car.
Yeah. That's how we all do it, by the way.
Yeah.
What's your favorite food?
Oh, ice cream. No, I'm just joking. I do love a good steak and potatoes. Can't go wrong there.
Come on. Are you like blue, medium rare, rare?
Medium rare.
Nice. Perfect.
Yeah.
Being American, this might take a twist, so go for it. But you're the sport you love most and your team.
I missed. I was in the marching band with the drums, so nice. I didn't have any sports team, unfortunately.
Yep.
But like green and gold now, right? Yeah, green and gold. That's it.
That's it. Just anything green and gold. Come on.
There you go.
Thanks again, Paul, for your time. Really appreciate it. It's been a super valuable conversation, I reckon, for me and for others. So I just want to thank you for your time. What's the best way people can connect with you and what you're up to at the Church Co?
Yeah, we are at the Church Co on all the social media platforms. So we're doing church tips and church growth tips for how you can grow your church digitally, different ways of reaching new people. And you've sent us a message, we'll get back to you pretty quick. But thanks so much for having me.
No, brilliant. As I said, brilliant conversation. And for those of you that are looking for a solution in that space, definitely check out the Church Co. All the link and the details will be in the show notes below. But it's easy enough just to head to thechurchco.com and you'll find everything there. But again, thanks, Paul. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Paul. What an awesome time. Make sure you check out Paul and everything they're doing at thechurchco.com and hear all and get involved, get amongst all that good stuff. If you need a church website, head over there. It's a really simple but amazing solution. And so head over there. I want to encourage you to really just continue to press into what the Holy Spirit is doing. He is moving in the earth at the moment, and he's moving in amazing ways. And so keep pressing in, keep your chin up. God is on the throne. Thanks for your time here. Make sure you click like, subscribe, and head over to our website, churchnxt.com, a place of resource, a place that exists to empower you. Thanks again so much for listening. Means so much, and we'll talk soon.